Deadline day as we bring you wall-to-wall coverage. Big news from Tottenham, who have a bid rejected for the Crystal Palace defender Marc Guehi. Manchester City are trying to sign Porto's Nico Gonzalez. Will they get it done in time? And Mathys Tel has been in demand all window. He won't be going to Spurs, and he won't be going to Arsenal either. Don't forget, you can keep across all the latest information as it happens on our dedicated Transfer Centre blog. You just scan the QR code on your screen. More breaking news, and Christopher Nkunku is set to stay at Chelsea despite Bayern Munich and Manchester United interest. We've been told there is no sign of the player moving before the deadline. And confirmation from West Ham, James Ward-Prowse has returned to the club after his loan deal was cancelled at Nottingham Forest. Once again, good morning to Statman Dave, Flex Kwekufari and to Kevin Hatchard. Let's get to Tottenham as they hope to sign a centre-back. Michael Bridge is at the club's training ground for us. And he's given us some big news in the last few minutes. Huge developments, Michael, involving Marc Guehi.
Yeah, huge news in terms of Tottenham's interest in Marc Guehi. I understand around a £70 million bid was rejected from Crystal Palace. Now, remember, Guehi's in the final 12 months of his contract in the summer. Extremely highly regarded. But yeah, Spurs, big news here, and more throughout the day here on Sky Sports News.
Newcastle wanted him in the summer. Chelsea were also interested earlier this month. How badly do Spurs need a player of his quality?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Radu Dragusin, it's his birthday today, but he might not be getting some good birthday news because there's a fear that he's got a serious knee injury, and that's yet another injury for Spurs. There's no Christian Romero at the moment. Ange Postecoglou's been very open on his injury situation. There doesn't seem to be any return time frame for him. Mickey van der Ven is back, yes, but you know, they're having to manage his minutes after a serious hamstring injury. Spurs need bodies in. They need another defender. They signed Danso on Saturday as well, didn't they? And look, Kevin Danso, 21 million signing from Lyon, but it came out of nowhere. They have got targets. They had targets. Fikayo Tomori was a target, but they went with Danso. But we did tell you that there was still another defender they were looking for as well. And throughout January, it was a forward Spurs have been looking for as well. So it could certainly be a busy day here.
Yeah, good, couldn't it? We'll be back to you shortly. Michael, thank you very much. Should just say Crystal Palace are expecting Marc Guehi to stay. They don't want him to go anywhere. Hello to those of you watching on Sky Sports News YouTube channel and the Sky Sports TikTok channel as well. Kevin, let's get into this Marc Guehi bid. Why has it come in so late? Why has it come on deadline day?
I mean, that is classic Daniel Levy, isn't it, to let it go quite late in the window, but it puts so much pressure on it, and Palace will feel that it's too late for them to get a replacement in. And I just think if Palace were to sell, even at such an enormous amount of money, it would send a bad signal about their progress, and I can't imagine their coach, Oliver Glasner, would be very happy about that. There is always that risk if you leave it this late that the club that you're trying to do business with simply don't have the time to get that replacement in. So I understand the interest, and obviously with all the injuries they have, but we've known about that for weeks. Why wasn't this done earlier?
I applaud Palace's resolve, though, because £70 million for Marc Guehi, who's a great defender and he's their captain, is a lot of money to turn down. But like you say, it speaks to the fact that Spurs have left it so late. Palace have no time to bring in a replacement. Already lost Trevor Chalobah, who Chelsea recalled in this window. The fee, if you compare it to the ability of the footballer, is something that needs to be looked at. Marc Guehi is obviously in high demand, being English as well, it has its own taxes. But I'm not too sure he is that primary defender that can lead a back four. He's been very good in the back three, but I don't know what you think, Dave. I don't know if you think he can be that A-side defender that most teams in the Premier League are looking for.
I think he's a top-quality player, but does he work in a back four? I think that would be the question. I think he excels in a back three. I think that covers part of his game that maybe like not top level. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. The other side of it, even though this bid is late from a Crystal Palace perspective, Dougie Freedman has shown time and time again that he can go into the market, pluck someone out of the Championship, pluck someone out of the Bundesliga and Lacroix, during the summer, that could facilitate a position in the back three that would work quite well. Rav van den Berg from Middlesbrough is having a great season. His numbers look great. Young defender. That's the type of player that Dougie Freedman would usually bring in. So it's almost like this money might be too good to turn down. I understand it's late in the window, but they're not going to not have players that they're going to be looking at around that. Like Guehi's already had interest from a transfer perspective previously. So it's one of those ones where I look at that and think, why not take that?
But I think there's two things there. I think the first thing is you're backing him to hold his value until the summer. Now, I know he'll only have a year left, but there's Newcastle interest, the Spurs interest. I don't think that interest is going to go away. The other thing is people suddenly know you've got 70 million burning a hole in your pocket, and so those negotiations then become a lot more difficult because clubs are saying, OK, well, the player that we thought we would sell you for 20 million will now try 30 million. So it's a tricky one. So I take the point, but I'm not sure it's that easy.
If you're Marc Guehi as well, you know there probably is going to be more interest in the summer. Newcastle could come back in. Newcastle could be in the Champions League.
Yeah, he's relaxed. Marc Guehi is relaxed about the situation. He's captain for Crystal Palace. He's playing well, like I said. Saw him yesterday. He looks fine, and he's having a great season in terms of what Crystal Palace are doing in terms of at the back. He doesn't seem like from the Newcastle interest it's got in his head. He's struggled. So like Kev said, he's still going to have offers in the summer. Value might have dropped slightly just because he's got less on his contract, but in terms of the quality and a decent fee, Crystal Palace and Steve Parish could still expect that.
Stop stalking Marc Guehi, will you? Now, Celtic have rejected West Ham's improved offer for the striker Daniel Cummings. 2 bids rejected this morning. It's understood West Ham will no longer be pursuing a deal in this window. The 18-year-old has agreed terms on a pre-contract, and the Premier League club will look to finalise that this week. Celtic will be due £350,000 in compensation once a pre-contract is completed, and then he can join West Ham in the summer. It's been a busy transfer window for Manchester City. They have signed 2 centre-backs and a forward. But will they bring in a midfielder as well? Let's join our reporter, Ben Ransom. He's at Manchester City's training ground for us. Hello, Ben. It looks like City are far from done in the window.
Yeah, it's kept me busy this window. Not often I get to stand here at Manchester City on deadline day and talk about a potential new signing. Well, that's what we can do today, because it's my understanding that talks are ongoing with Porto over the potential to try and bring Nico Gonzalez to the club. Now, we told you a few days ago that he was a player that City really liked. Midfielder, we know that's been the problem position since Rodri's been out for the season, and Nico Gonzalez fits the bill. I mean, this is a player that City have scouted extensively. His dad, Fran Gonzalez, now that might set some bells ringing in the dim and distant past. That's because he was a Spanish international that played for Deportivo when they won La Liga in 2000. So plenty of experience in the family. But perhaps more pertinent to this move is that he used to actually work here as part of the Manchester City Academy. And City, when the son, Nico, was 14, and then later when he was 16, actually tried to sign him twice and bring him over back then. So they've looked at this player for a long time. He's now 23. He's been at Porto, where he's really impressed in the 18 months since his move from Barcelona. But it's the move from Barcelona that also makes this slightly tricky, because negotiations are revolving around the fee. Now, the player has a €60 million release clause in his contract. As it stands, Porto want that paid in full. And that's due in part because Barcelona have a 40% sell-on, not profit, a sell-on fee. So that would be quite a chunk of that transfer fee. In and around this deal alongside it, there's also another element to this where Porto can buy half of that fee from Barcelona for €6 million. So essentially they can reduce the outlay to €18 million if City pay the full 60 million. But City are playing hardball. They don't want to meet that valuation as things stand. That's where the talks are ongoing this morning. So that one is a bit of a wait and see if we get a breakthrough. One source has told me this morning already that essentially if City don't meet that release clause, this deal is going to be off, and that will be them done for the window. But as we know, transfer deadline day, money does talk. the two clubs are talking, so potentially still some movement. So we'll keep a really close eye on that one, because it is, as I say, the position City would really like to fill. And another small update in terms of Manchester City, and another small update in terms of Nico O'Reilly, Manchester City Academy product, made his Premier League debut this season. He's been in and around Pep Guardiola's first team squad over the last couple of seasons. So it is a player that they like. Now, I'm told that earlier in the window, Chelsea approached Manchester City to try and explore the possibility of signing him in this window. The deal, or the talks, broke down very quickly because City were insistent that a buyback option was included in any deal, which Chelsea weren't prepared to include at the time. But again, that might be one just to wait and see whether Chelsea come back in the final day. We are still early in the day. It's the sort of thing that could potentially be resurrected. So here at Manchester City, I guess it's a story of the Nicos. Will it be Nico go or Nico no?
Love it, Ben. You've had a busy January, and I think you're going to have a busy February the 3rd as well. You stay right there. Right, OK, let's talk about then one of the Nicos. And that is, of course, Nico Gonzalez. If this deal goes through, what kind of a player are Manchester City getting?
They're getting somebody that can really help them in midfield because they've been so vulnerable in transition. He's somebody that can play that defensive midfield role, but gets forward as well, can score from range. Scored a really important goal for Porto in midweek, or last week actually, to keep them in Europe. They would have gone out of the Europa League if it wasn't for that. And he has really taken a step forward. He's got that La Masia training. He's come through the Barcelona Academy. If it wasn't for Pedri and Gavi and all the quality they've got in midfield, he'd still be a Barcelona player. But they loaned him out to Valencia. He's gone to Porto. And he's somebody that I think could slot in. Might take him a little while to adjust, but he's the kind of player I think City really need, not just for now, but somebody they can develop in the future.
Not strictly a defensive midfielder, though, is he?
No, he does get forward, but he's somebody with the energy, with the nous as well. He's a smart player to start cutting off those counter-attacks, because at the moment, Bernardo Silva's in there. When they don't have Kovacic, and when they were really struggling, it was no Kovacic, no Rodri. So he's somebody that can hold that central area and start to fight fires, because that's the kind of player they need. And he has the energy and the legs to do that.
Did we see that yesterday, Dave? Particularly in the last half an hour of that game against Arsenal, that City really needs some backup in that midfield area right now.
100%. And I think when you look at that City squad, you know, the midfield against Chelsea I thought was decent. They held their position, they controlled the game. Mamouche and Phil Foden were narrow, the fullbacks are really high, but they weren't open. Yesterday we saw it too many times where there was someone was stepping in there. Was it, you know, John Stones at times, one of the fullbacks coming into that central area? But it was so disorganised. You mentioned the press, you know, previously on the show. Arsenal were so good out of the back, and you can't afford to not have good structure. And City didn't have good structure. And someone like Nico Gonzalez in that position will add that. Also look at someone like a Rodri. Scored goals, got assists over the last few seasons. That's been part of why, you know, he won the Ballon d'Or. And that's something that Nico Gonzalez already has in his game. So, again, it's a raw player, but could be moulded to be perfect for Man City.
Man City were humbled yesterday, weren't they, at the Emirates. And coming up on deadline day, we will be live to North London. Will Arsenal sign a striker? And we'll get an update from the EFL. Stay with us. Arsenal put 5 past Manchester City yesterday, but many still believe they need to sign a striker if they want to win the Premier League. So will they sign one before the deadline? We can head live to Arsenal now. Our reporter Gary Cottrell is waiting to talk to us. That's what the fans want. They've been baying for it, Gary, for a long time. Any news of a possible incoming?
I think Mikel Arteta ideally would want that out-and-out striker, that 25 to 30 goals a season man. We know for sure that the recruiters are working hard and will be throughout the day to try and find if anyone does fit that bill who could come. Always difficult, of course, in the January window. They have got goals, haven't they, Arsenal? As you mentioned, 5 against City yesterday, 5 different goal scorers as well, 8 different goal scorers involved in their last 9 goals in the Premier League. Second top scorers in the Premier League so far this season, second top scorer in the Premier League last season. But fans believe that there would be even more goals if there was that player with that instinct for scoring goals. Kai Havertz, of course, doing it mainly for Arsenal at the moment. He's got 9, a bit of a confidence problem, of course. Ollie Watkins, who Arsenal made a bid for earlier in this window, has only got 10 in the Premier League, 1 more than Kai Havertz, but perhaps with the players surrounding him that Arsenal have, he would have scored more than that. It doesn't look like Aston Villa want to let him go. Arsenal, one of the players I'm sure they're working on behind the scenes to try and change Villa's mind is Ollie Watkins, but we know that Mathys Tel, who isn't the finished product when it comes to scoring goals, tends to play more on the left-hand side of attack, but certainly instinctive, good in the air, good with his feet, fast, and very, very versatile. He isn't now being pursued, we understand, by Arsenal. So, with 12 hours to go, it looks like, certainly for the time being, Arsenal won't be shopping in Germany for a new player this window. Who can tell whether they'll get a player? Certainly won't be Tel, though.
Very good. Thank you very much. Gary, I know exactly where he is in that stadium as well. Right, if Arsenal can't get their first 2 or 3 targets safe, Flex, let's say Isak, you can't get Isak, you can't get Gyökeres, you can't get Sesko in this window. Say they're the top 3 targets. Arsenal fans won't want to hear this, but is a better long-term plan to then just keep hold of your money and then go in big for one of those players in the summer?
Yeah, I do think it's something Arsenal fans won't want to hear right now, and they'll be frustrated and aggrieved because they've had time to attack this window aggressively, and Arsenal, in my opinion, haven't. They've waited far too late to bid for Ollie Watkins, which has resulted in that bid being rejected. John Duran leaving the football club and Arsenal having different, and Aston Villa having different aspirations in the window. So that's not an option. So now I think it will do more harm than good by trying to panic and find the one. And also, the one is not usually available in the dying hours of the window. So I think Arsenal fans are entitled to be like, how have we arrived here? We knew we needed this. And of course, a 5-1 win against Manchester City with Kai Havertz doing well in the game, I understand that, is one thing. But overall, it's a common theme. But if Arsenal lock in and perform to the best of their ability, they can keep the pressure on. Might not do it, but they can keep the pressure on. But they can't go and fight to sign another 60, 70 million pound striker now out of the who wasn't supposed to be their target.
But the players that you've just mentioned, Gyökeres, Isak, Sesko, you could have attacked it at the start of the window and you wouldn't get them.
Yes.
Because Sporting are holding firm. They won't do a deal until the summer. Newcastle were never going to let him go halfway through a season. And Sesko, absolutely the same. Leipzig never do big deals in January.
So why not then keep hold of your money and just wait?
Well, exactly that.
No,
All
why not
in
try
for
to get
Isak
Watkins from the start is what I'm saying.
No, because
they went from near the end.
Yeah, but Arsenal paying the price for not doing business in the summer. Granted, he wanted Mikel Moreno.
That's
they
true.
brought him
That's
in.
the time to do it.
They brought in Calafiori. It was already a position of strength in terms of centre backs. It had Gabriel Saliba, but I get it. They want to play him at left back. Lewis Skelly's playing there now. And then you brought in Raheem Sterling, who by all accounts is not the same player that has been tearing up the Premier League for the last 5 or 6 years. You do that big business in the summer. And like you mentioned, all those players that you mentioned, the common thread is the clubs don't want to do business in January. So Arsenal are better off saving their money, going with what they got, because Mikel Arteta clearly thought at the beginning of the season this was good enough to win the league. Go with what you got, and in the summer, go big and bring in the striker that you actually want.
I think Šeško's the one.
Yeah.
I think Šeško's the one because tall, quick, presses. If you don't press at Leipzig, you don't play. So he learned that. He was at Salzburg before. So he's in that Red Bull school. He understands what you have to do without the ball. Been in great form this season. In a poor team, actually, that hasn't played that well, I think. Did well last season. Took a little while to adjust, to make that leap. But I think he's the one. I suspect he's one of their main targets for the summer.
But also you look at Arsenal. Kai Havertz, yes, he missed that big opportunity, but got a goal, got an assist. In terms of goal involvements in the Premier League at the Emirates, he's 9 and 11.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. But then the bigger picture is opportunity for youth players. Arsenal had the first time in Premier League history where 2 teenagers scored for them. You know, and Nwaneri's quality in those zones. Obviously, Lewis Skelly's sitting a little bit deeper at left back, moving into midfield. But Nwaneri doesn't get that option if there is another centre-back in there. An attacker in there, not a centre-back up front. So you naturally sometimes in football have the opportunity, because maybe you've missed out on a player, and yeah, I agree, last summer they could have done business, yeah, they could have done stuff in Jan. I don't disagree with what Flex is saying here, because it's a market, there's opportunity to do it. And those 3 players are probably the top priority, but there could be other players. But Nwaneri coming in is so important. 3 goals in his last 5 games for a 17-year-old. Yeah, they're in a good spot. Arsenal in a great spot.
But Arteta's talked about this as well. He's talked about creating that pathway. Because if you don't, young players stop joining you for a start because they don't believe. Chelsea have kind of had this issue in the past at times, because you've had good players in their youth system who've then done very well elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So he recognises that frustration, and he recognises you've got to keep that channel open. So I think you're absolutely right.
Right, we've got some big breaking news for Wolves fans, potentially, because we have news of another potential incoming at Wolves. They're close to agreeing a deal with the French side Reims for midfielder Marshall Munetsi. The fee is believed to be around £16 million. Wolves have already done business with Reims for the centre-back Emmanuel Agbadou earlier in the window, and have today made a £10 million offer also for the Red Star Belgrade centre-back, Nasser Giga. So potentially 2 players coming into Wolves on deadline day. Let's cross to Dave Reed now. He's got a transfer update from the EFL. Dave.
Morning, Matt. Thank you very much. Loving the show. You guys done a great job this morning. I'm going to be here for the rest of the day, updating you on everything going on in the EFL. Deals being announced all the time. Let's start with a really big one. Burnley are trying to help their promotion push back to the Premier League. Scott Parker has strengthened his squad with the loan signing of Marcus Edwards from Sporting Lisbon. We're told there's an obligation to buy the player for a fee believed to be £8 million plus bonuses if Burnley are promoted to the Premier League. It's set to be a busy day at playoff-chasing Middlesbrough. They've signed winger Samuel Illing Jr. on loan from Aston Villa after he was recalled from Bologna in Serie A. And former Leicester and Manchester City striker Kelechi Iheanacho is also expected to join on loan from Sevilla today. Jadon Danns looks set for a deadline day loan move from Liverpool. It's understood Sunderland are expected to sign the youngster after they saw off competition from Blackburn and Hull. And imagine signing 11 players in this January window and then sacking the manager who's helped to do the deals. That's exactly what Carlisle have done today. They're bottom of the EFL and parted company with Mike Williamson after just 5 months in charge.
Thanks very much, Dave. He'll be with you throughout the day. And coming up on deadline day, we are expecting outgoings at Chelsea. We will be live to Stamford Bridge next. Let's check in at Stamford Bridge. Jamie Weir is there for us. Jamie, is it going to be more about outgoings rather than incomings for Chelsea on deadline day?
Yeah, I think that would be fair, Matt. Very quiet on the incomings front. It's more about Enzo Maresca slimming down this bloated squad that he's inherited. And let's rattle through the names that could be on their way out the door today at Chelsea. Joao Felix, bizarre old situation. Had that successful loan spell a couple of seasons ago. Was signed permanently just 6 months ago on a 7-year deal. But now it looks like AC Milan are keen on Joao Felix. He was in Milan yesterday to watch the derby at the San Siro. And Chelsea are insisting on a loan with an obligation to buy at the end of the season to end that 7-year contract just 1 year into it. So Joao Felix could be on his way out of favour here under Enzo Maresca. Axel Disasi, Spurs have ended their interest in him. Very rarely that any business gets done between Chelsea and Tottenham anyway. Aston Villa are, however, still in talks with Chelsea over a loan for the defender. There will be no option included on that one, Matt. Crystal Palace have agreed a deal to take Ben Chilwell on loan to the end of the season. Again, very very, very limited game time under Enzo Maresca, just a substitute appearance in the League Cup. He will be having his medical at some point today. And Carney Chukwuemeka, Sky in Germany, telling us that he is set to join Borussia Dortmund on loan. And remember, the German window closes at 5 p.m. today. Talks have been ongoing between those two clubs throughout the window. Chelsea wanted him to go on loan to a club where he will get regular game time, and Borussia Dortmund have got a great track record of giving young players game time, of course. So he flew into Dortmund last night ahead of finalising the move, and we sort of wait for the white smoke to emerge from Borussia Dortmund on that one. But yes, a lot more about outgoings than incomings. Enzo Maresca looking to trim down that squad. He, of course, will have his mind on one thing and one thing only, and that is Monday Night Football tonight against West Ham United, while the powers that be at Chelsea take care of that transfer business.
Top man. Cheers, Jamie. Right, let's talk Chelsea then. Your lot, Kwaku, have been very quiet this window.
Yep.
Are they all right? Everything okay at Chelsea?
I think Chelsea are actually doing the right thing because you look at how big the squad is, and a lot's been made about how bloated the squad is, an A team, a B team, even a C team. But Chelsea needs to trim it down. That's why I understand the potential outgoings of a player like Axel Disasi, the impending outgoing of a player like Ben Chilwell. Chelsea did a lot of business in the summer, as they tend to do in transfer windows, brought in the likes of Pedro Neto, João Felix, Jadon Sancho. And there's also been an emergence of young players as well at Chelsea in terms of using Cobham. Josh Achupong as a centre-back option, Tyreek George as a player out wide, which I think is necessary for a team like Chelsea, who have lent on Cobham for a lot of their business. And so Chelsea, in terms of bringing in players, we all know what the issue is. It's a goalkeeper and it's a centre-back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Chelsea need to offload a lot of centre-backs before they can bring some in. The injuries to Fofana and Badiashile haven't helped this window. And so Chelsea will bide their time in terms of incomings and wait till summer to bring in those
Do you think they're
players that can
waiting
make a difference.
till the summer for a goalkeeper specifically?
Yes, and Maresca's asked that every other press conference. What about the goalkeeper? What about the goalkeeper? And he's backed him, and he's not going to change that stance. He's quite stubborn when it comes to those things. I do believe Chelsea will go again in the summer to bring in a goalkeeper, but the issue for Chelsea is they've got about 6 or 7 goalkeepers on their books. So again, outgoings is a huge part of Chelsea's business before they can bring anybody in who can make a real difference to their starting 11.
Got a perfectly good one in Philip Jurgensen.
Do you believe he's good enough?
Yes.
Do you see enough of Villarreal?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't understand how... I applaud it in a way because you want to back your players publicly, I get it, but Sanchez is error-prone in lots of different ways, like will give the ball away with the ball at his feet, crosses, struggles at times, and you've got Jurgensen there. What message does it send to him if he's trying to compete for the slot and he's not getting it?
Well, he came in and made a mistake himself, didn't
Yes,
he?
he did.
In the cup game, right?
Yeah, against Newcastle in the Cup. And he's come in and he has made mistakes, but that's going to happen if you're a goalkeeper and you're not playing consistently.
There, isn't it?
But
Yeah,
I do agree with you, it needs to be a meritocracy football in terms of if you're not playing well, your position should be under threat. And it's been bizarre to hear Enzo Maresca come out and publicly defend Sanchez and maybe even bring up other players into it, saying, what about the mistakes that Caicedo makes? What about the mistakes that this player makes? As opposed to addressing the issue, which is the goalkeeper, who has cost us a lot of points.
But then when he's outspoken too much and puts too much criticism on a player, people say, why are you going to throw this player under the bus, etc., etc. And I think he probably is stuck between a rock and a hard place because he's made his decision that is going to be the number one. And the one who they really want probably isn't there amongst the 7 goalkeepers they have. but if he has made that, then he is probably right, to be honest, to kind of share the blame out, to say, he's basically saying all players make mistakes. We've had players who have made mistakes that have led to goals out on the outfield, and of course it's the same in terms of Sanchez. So I'm going to stick by him to the summer because he's going to need him. He's decided that I've got to stay with you into the summer. There's no point throwing him under the bus. That's definitely not going to help him.
I've spoken to a couple of goalkeeper scouts about Mike Penders, who they've brought in.
Must be special.
And so many clubs wanted him. So, maybe not for now, but long term, he could be an option because these scouts are telling me that he's top level.
OK, but for the moment, it's going to be all about outgoings, really, for Chelsea in this January window, not incomings. How about Ipswich? They have failed to win any of their last 5 Premier League games, so could they look to strengthen their squad as they bid to avoid relegation? Let's go live to our reporter, Paul Gilmore. He's at Portman Road for us. Hello, Paul. You've got some breaking news for us to start off with.
We do indeed. They have acted off the back of that defeat against Southampton at the weekend, and Ipswich are close to adding a goalkeeper to their squad. They have agreed a deal with West Brom for goalkeeper Alex Palmer. The fee is around £2 million. Palmer, who's played around 30 times this season, as recently as the weekend for West Brom. He's tried and tested, experienced goalkeeper. And of course, Ipswich, this was an area that they were really trying to strengthen after kind of Oro Murich's struggles this year. The Ipswich fans have been disappointed with his impact on the team, and then Christian Walton getting himself injured as well at Anfield and has been injured, so it's been a bit of a problem position of late. Well, Alex Palmer is on his way to Ipswich for a medical. That £2 million deal with West Brom agreed, and they may yet be busy further. Kieran McKenna, of course, keen to add to his squad. Other areas maybe just to look out for, central midfielder and striker as well, although Kieran McKenna has been very clear on this, that it will only be if the right fit for the club and for the team. But no doubt Ipswich trying to be as active as possible on this, the final day of the transfer window.
Oh yeah, they certainly are. Thank you very much, Paul. Just a quick word on Ipswich then with you, Dave. What do you make of their business so far? Desperately scrapping to stay in the Premier League. Philogene in and Cisso's in. Ben Godfrey's come in as well, and it sounds like more today as well.
Yeah, I think it's been good. Someone like Philogene's going to provide that spark. Wes Burns maybe not played up to the same level that he was in the Championship. He was a great outlet out there. Long balls would get crossed into the box. Philogene will have a little bit more quality in terms of a Premier League player that can create something out of nothing. Then when you look at Enciso, his shot volume is ridiculous in his career. Averages, nearly over 4 a game in the Premier League. That's a player that will allow Ipswich to attack a little bit more, score goals is something that they need. There's been a lot on Liam Delap's shoulders this season, so other players that have come into the squad very good. And then Ben Godfrey's obviously a top defender. In terms of playing in that back three, could operate at right back as well. We see Kieran McKenna's Ipswich always build with a 3. So I think they've done really well. Out of the teams that are fighting for relegation, I think they've done the best.
Tell you what, though, Wolves are making some moves as well. They are close to agreeing a deal with the French side Reims for the midfielder Marshall Menetzi. The fee is believed to be around £16 million. They've also today made a £10 million offer for the Red Star Belgrade centre-back Nasser Giga. What can you tell us about these two signings, and can they help Wolves as they try to stay out of the bottom 3?
Yeah, I think they can. I think Munetsi is a Zimbabwean midfielder. He's played for Reims for quite some time now in Liga. He's been a regular, and he's somebody that can pop up with some goals, can make goals as well, but can carry the ball really well in midfield. So he's somebody that's got that consistency, I think, that can at least be a good squad player for them. And Giga's somebody who's played for Red Star in the Champions League this season, has come up against some really top opposition. So I think these are signings to strengthen the squad and give them more of a chance of staying up.
And how important, Flex, was it that they've been able to tie Mathys Cunha down to an extension, so he will be there for the rest of the season at least?
Yeah, because there was a point in time when that deal was on the table, unsigned, a few destabilising performances at Stamford Bridge and then at home to Arsenal as well from Cunha, where a little bit of criticism was coming his way. Is he a little bit unsettled? Is he a little bit sidetracked? Maybe body language wasn't quite right, and the manager kind of alluded to that, especially after the Chelsea game. But I think that'll be a huge relief for Wolves fans and for the club to make sure he stays at least until the summer. I think, if we're being honest, of course, if Wolves were to get relegated, I think you'd certainly be leaving. But even if they didn't, it might have been a case of sign this, get us to the summer. We can give you a move then, and it also retains the value from their side that if the worst case scenario they do go down, they were able to sort of say, right, we can get a big fee for you. One that we feel we deserve for, bringing you in for the best part, £40 million. They spent a big outlay on Mathys Cunha, so fantastic that they've managed to keep him at the football club.
Ipswich and Wolves both looking to be busy on deadline day. Now, coming up, the teams select their best signings of the window. You won't want to miss that. Plus, we'll discuss some of the big names that could be on the move before tonight's deadline. Don't go anywhere. On the situation involving Jayden Dans, Sunderland are expected to sign the Liverpool teenager on loan. They've fought off competition from Blackburn and Hull, and he has arrived now in the northeast for his medical. So that one could be announced relatively imminently. We've had a busy morning of breaking news, really. It started pretty much from when we sat down in the chairs, didn't it, at 9 o'clock. And we've had some big stories, some big names that could be on the move. Some of them will be staying, so we're just going to recap some of them. Marc Guehi, Quaku, let's start with that. Big bid come in from Tottenham, possibly in the region of £70 million, but Palace expect him to stay. Do you expect him to stay?
I do. Huge bid, but I think it'd be a case of too little, too late. Guehi's only got 18 months or less than that now, 18 months left on his contract. And think about what it was taking Newcastle in the summer. I think 70 mil would have got him out of Crystal Palace in the summer. But if you're coming in with a bid of 70 mil on deadline day, and Crystal Palace are a team, let's not forget, that have their own ambitions, then it's going to be very, very difficult to do that. Like I mentioned before, Trevor Chalobah's already been recalled by Chelsea. Guehi's so imperative to what Glasner's built there, got a great partnership with Lacroix in the back three. I think that he's a player that will have interest in the summer, but deadline day, 70 mil for Marc Guehi, he's not getting it done.
Yeah, OK. Nico Gonzalez, Kevin. Manchester City trying to sign the Porto midfielder. If this goes through, and you guys are about to select your best signings of the window, by the way, if this goes through, would that be up there for you in the top signings?
I think it's certainly one that could be impactful. When you think of the problems they have, they absolutely need somebody like him to plug some of those gaps and maybe free up somebody like Bernardo Silva to play in his usual attacking role, because at the moment that just isn't working. What I'm interested in is how tough Porto will be in the negotiation, because historically they are very tough. They've got to pay a chunk of the money to Barcelona, so a bit of work to do on that one, I think.
Dave, Mathys Tel, we turned up this morning thinking, well, Man United and Arsenal could be fighting it out for him. We're now hearing that it's unlikely he's going to go to Arsenal or Spurs or Man United at the moment, which is a bit of a shame, I guess, because one of those teams maybe could have done with him.
Yeah, for sure, and it's a shame because he's a top-quality footballer, so explosive, quite unique in what he does. And I think when you go back to when he worked under Julian Nagelsmann, the prospect looked incredible. And you look at the goal involvements every 96 minutes, the stats are great in the background. We just want to see this guy play football because his ceiling is really, really high, but it's going to cost money. I think Manchester United are going to have to, sign him on a permanent deal, which 50, 60 million quid is probably too much for them right now. Would have fit in at Arsenal, would have fit in at Spurs. I just want to see him not on the bench at, wherever he stays. So hopefully, maybe a late move for him.
Be very frustrating for him as well, because he's made his feelings clear from what we're seeing in the media that he wants to leave, and Bayern Munich accepted that he wanted to leave. But like Kevin said earlier, once they saw there was serious money and serious interest available for him, that's what they would prefer. And they've sort of refrained away from straight loans or loans without obligations or options, which has left it really difficult for him to find his way. So I'm looking at it from the player perspective, and if that window slams shut, I think 5 p.m. we said, and he's still there, he's not going to get much football. So he's going to have a tough time from now until the summer. And Manchester United definitely could have done with him.
I thought you wanted to chip in again there. You gave me the eyes.
It's done.
Shocked eyes. Just the shocked eyes.
We're not signing anyone.
Tel still Bayern Munich in Bavaria, not for me.
I'm not reading you, mate. We're not on sync anymore. Axel Disasi in talks with Aston Villa. He won't be going to Tottenham, we are hearing. Is he someone who Aston Villa need right now?
Aston Villa absolutely need a centre-half. It's a must. They've done some really good business in this window, actually. I mean, we haven't seen Asensio be confirmed yet, but there's, that's looking positive. Marcus Rashford through the door. I think if they get this centre-half, it'll be a really good window for them, especially with how they've used the funds from John Duran. Like we spoke about John Duran throughout, this move to Saudi. Unproven, hasn't even started 10 games for Aston Villa. So yes, there was a situation of you looking at how good could he actually be, what is the ceiling, but essentially for a player who hasn't proved it, for a big fee to come in, and now you look at how they're potentially spreading out these funds across the squad. Marlon obviously came in as well, forgot him. It could be a really good window, and they're really light at centre-half. Mings has had his injury problems, sold Carlos. You're looking at Pau Torres, he's had his injury problem, so there's a lot on Ezri Konsa there. So I think if they can get a centre-half, they'll be much better for it, for sure.
And let's finish off with João Felix, who we are hearing quite possibly is going to move to AC Milan on loan. He's in Milan at the moment. He was there for the Milan derby at the San Siro. AC Milan seem to be making quite a lot of moves at the moment, linked with Rashford earlier. What's going on there?
Really ambitious. Me and Dave had a really nerdy conversation before we came on air.
Surprise, eh?
About João Felix. And when we first saw him in the Youth League playing for Benfica, and you thought, wow, who's this kid? And he has been incredible at senior level. He won a title with Atleti. He was great for Benfica, but it hasn't worked out this season. I want to see him play. And Milan, to answer your question about them going big, really ambitious. Kyle Walker, really smart signing.
Yeah.
Somebody
How did he
can
go
help
in his
them
first
now.
game?
Really well, actually. And they nearly won the Milan derby against Inter, but conceded a late equaliser. But he had a really big impact in the game. So he's gone in. Santiago Jimenez, bringing him in from Feyenoord, I think will be huge for them. And huge for João Felix because he needs to play off a target man, a proper centre forward. And I think Jimenez, even though he is mobile, I think can be that focal point, and João Felix buzzing around him can do some real damage.
You've got to remember that was the last time when he played with Seferovic. It was that relationship, 14 goals, 9 assists in 27 games as a second striker. He hasn't played that position with a big target man since he left Benfica. Hopefully we can see him now at Milan with Santiago Jimenez.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to finish off with these guys picking their best signings of the window so far. Let's start with Quaker and Flex, because you've actually gone with the same player.
Yeah.
We have, but I felt like changing it throughout the show. I'm not going to lie.
I felt like you copied me. I've gone for Omar Mamouche. And as a United fan, I think I should pick the City player. So you see the move from Frankfurt to Manchester City, and he's a player that, granted, that the world-class sample size is small. This is the season. This is the first season where he's really exploded in terms of numbers. But if you look at the first half of the season in the Bundesliga, and Kev can vouch for this, he was probably the most exciting player in the league. And City stole a march. They were very aggressive at the beginning of the window, brought him in, and you've seen Pep, when asked about him before he even made a start for City, he said he's ready to play straight away, and we've seen that subsequent. He started 2 Premier League games already and has made an impact for City.
I do agree with you, and that's why he was my player. However, I have to be honest, there's something about this Marcus Rashford to Aston Villa. I know Marcus Rashford has been speaking in the in-house media team at Villa, saying it's a short-term why I'm here, etc., etc. So I want to do the best. I just got a feeling it's really going to work for him.
All right.
So keep an eye on that one.
A lot of competition in that squad, though.
There is, and I just think that if he can lock in and show to Emery that he's ready to play, which would throw all types of question marks about why he couldn't do it before. Forget all of that. But you look at how Villa are as an attacking force in the Champions League as well. I just think there's something there.
Running out of time slightly here, so you've got about 45 seconds each or less to go through yours. Who is yours, Kev?
I had to go for a European one, didn't I? So I
Of course you did.
Kvicha Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah.
From Napoli to Paris. Real statement signing. Still young. Still has the ability to really light up that league. And I think he's somebody that could really help them in the Champions League as well. I think he's going to be a brilliant signing for them.
I just don't understand why no Premier League sides went in for him. He's an absolute gun of a player, isn't he? Dave, who have you gone for?
Simple. Patrick Dorgu. I think he solves a lot of United's problems on the left-hand side. 16 carries leading to shots in Serie A this season, the most of any defender. He's a player that can score goals, very composed, but big, left-footed on the left side, can underlap, overlap, will get crosses into the box. Simply, it just works for Ruben Amorim's system, and that is why, for me, is signing of the window. Although Nico Gonzalez, I think that could be a big, big deal in that sense. Manchester City have conceded more goals in the Premier League than Manchester United. They need someone in defensive midfield, so that could be. That's my number 2 anyway. I've gone with 2. That's greedy. We're not that bad. No, we're all right.
Still hopeful, man. You're going to bring someone in?
Fingers crossed. We have to. Honestly, we absolutely have to. Be a catastrophe if we don't. We need a forward.
Yeah. Need a few things, probably, to be honest with you. I don't want to stick the knife.
We do. But
maybe a centre-back as well.
Yeah, honestly.
Guys, been an absolute pleasure. Statman Dave, Flex, Quaker Fari, Kevin Hatchard. We're all going to go and have a lie down, I think, after that. That was pretty busy, wasn't it? It was fun, though, as well. Coming up, we are live to the Emirates and Old Trafford as deadline day continues to ramp up here on Sky Sports News. Could be news of an incoming at Manchester City and various other places. Stay tuned.